What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast presented by Reality Sports Online. My name is Kyle Yates, and I am your host, and I am joined for the last time as a regular co-host on this podcast, Trevor Sikkema. He can be found on Twitter at Tampa Bay Trey. Trev, you've got an announcement here, man. It went out on Twitter yesterday. We're recording this on Tuesday, so you couldn't say where you were going last podcast, but I think you can now. Where'd you end up?
Yes, I am starting as a full-time host, reporter, podcaster, a lot of things for Pro Football Focus. And I know that everybody who listens to this podcast is probably very familiar with the guys over at Pro Football Focus. I'm super excited. I'm excited to join that team. I know a lot of the people there already, and so it's going to be a blast. We're going to be producing a lot of really great video-centric content, which I'm super, super excited about. But, man, hearing you say those words for the last time, I'm not going to lie, man, cut deep. It cut to the heart. Man, I hate hearing that.
I know. Hey, something else that cut deep. Let's play a game called On That Day. Okay, on this day, 2 years ago, Andrew Luck retired from the NFL.
Two years ago. Do you remember exactly where you were when it happened?
Yes,
because it is the strangest thing, right? I mean, like, people talk about world events and they'll go like, oh, I remember exactly where I was like when this world event happened. For the sports world, it seems like no matter who you ask, if you go, where were you when you learned that Andrew Luck was retiring? People can tell you exactly where they were. I was at my house in Tampa. We were throwing a watch party for the UF Miami game, and we were waiting for food to come, and I saw it come across Twitter, and it was just like, boom, Andrew Luck's retiring. And I remember exactly where I was in the house, what was going on, and everything. It's so crazy.
If you would have asked me before I saw this go out on Twitter, if you would have asked me like, hey, when did Andrew Luck retire? I probably would have been like, oh man, probably would have been like 4 years ago, right? Like probably 5 years ago now. I was like 2 years ago.
2 years ago, man.
How much has freaking happened in 2 years that Andrew Luck retiring is still like in recent memory? And like people still talk about like, yeah, Andrew Luck could come back. And I'm like, man, that was 4 years ago. He's not coming back. No, it's 2 years ago. He actually legitimately, if he wanted to, he could still come back.
He could be.
And actually perform. And actually perform at a high level. All right, well, hey, let's get into a rookie mock draft here. We've got a lot that we are going to run through. But before we do, want to remind everyone about the giveaway that we have going on, courtesy of our friends at Pristine Auction. For more information on this giveaway, it is a Cam Akers signed helmet. Head over to fantasypros.com/dynasty contest. I talk about it almost every episode, letting you know how you can enter this giveaway. So if you are interested in learning more about that, just head over to fantasypros.com/dynasty contest. Again, that is for a chance to get a Cam Akers signed helmet. All right, Trev, so we've got a 4-round Superflex rookie mock draft, and you're probably sitting here saying like, man, it's August, like we're 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL season. Why are you doing a rookie mock draft? Well, there are still people that are doing rookie drafts, excuse me. And so we wanted to be able to get some content in front of you guys to be able to say like, this is how things have changed. This is what you should be expecting, roughly going into your rookie draft. But then also it's kind of a fun exercise to be able to look back at how much has changed since even last April on some of the order of these guys that they're going to go in drafts. So kind of a little fun exercise to see just how much has shifted here, especially with the quarterbacks. Now that we've seen them on the field, how much changes here. So I am going to give you the number 1 overall pick, my friend. You are up. Again, this is a Superflex league. So quarterbacks, priority on them. Where are you going here with the 101?
I'm still going with Najee Harris. I feel like I have to. It's just he's just going to be so good for the Steelers. And I think that they have some offensive line questions, but it just seems like a Mike Tomlin ran team is always going to be well disciplined, and they're going to be on their P's and Q's. And I feel like they're going to have the offensive line in tip-top shape eventually for whatever the talent level is. And of course, we're talking dynasty, so we're not just talking about the next couple of years. We're talking about far into the future as well. And, Najee Harris, really, once he came on and got his confidence at Alabama, it's been a show. And, I mean, he's just been one of the best playmakers in college football. And now I think that that's going to be the case in the NFL. The volume that he's going to get over the next, I'll just say his rookie contract is just going to be worth the price of admission right there. So there's a lot of really talented players on here, but I'll go with Najee Harris to start this draft off.
Yeah, and people talk about quarterback all the time, but even in startup Superflex drafts, we're seeing CMC go number 1 overall over Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, things like that. So I think Najee Harris here going at number 1 overall is not that crazy, not that far-fetched. However, here at the number 2 overall pick, I am going to take the quarterback, and I am going to go with Trey Lance. I think that we're going to see him on the football field sooner rather than later. So Trey Lance here for the San Francisco 49ers. We have seen his rocket arm. We have seen it in action here. He's had a ton of passes that have been dropped, but we started to see a little bit of rough seas there with the second preseason game, and then the second half, man, he came out, or towards the end of the first half, and then the second half, he came out on fire. And you just see the arm strength, and we haven't even seen the mobility yet. We haven't even seen him take off and really, really run. So Trey Lance here at the number 2 overall pick, which means, Trevor, if you want him, Trevor Lawrence is sitting there at the number 3 overall selection for you.
I know where he is. You don't got to remind me of the draft board. I'm actually going to make you a very happy man one way or the other, because I'm going to pick a quarterback, and I'm not going to pick Trevor Lawrence. I'm actually going to pick Zach Wilson. I think that Zach Wilson is in for one heck of a career, man. I had him right behind Trevor Lawrence. Well, I don't want to say too right behind, because it was clear that Trevor Lawrence was my QB1 going into this draft season. But, man, Zach Wilson was my QB2. And I feel like he was close enough. He got the franchise tag label from me. He's looked really good, all things considered. I think that offense is only on the up. And where I have a lot of faith in Justin Fields' ability, I'm not sure exactly where the Chicago Bears are going. And so when you think about rookie drafts and getting the most out of players and their contracts early on, you have to think about situations. I think the Jets are honestly on the up. I think Robert Saleh is a fantastic coach. I think you're going to continue to invest in that offensive line and the offensive weapons. As Zach Wilson grows, so is the Jets offense. I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think situationally, that's why I got to go with Wilson here as the next QB off the board.
He's looked good in the couple of preseason games here. He's latching on to Corey Davis, that's for sure.
Good.
Ridiculous target share there for Corey Davis. So, all right, well, you left me Justin Fields here at the Trevor Lawrence here at the 104. I've got to take him here. It is close between Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence again, but this is Trevor Lawrence that we're talking about, and he's here at the 104. I can't let him slide too much further, so I will go Trevor Lawrence here at the 104.
I'll go Justin Fields then. I mean, it feels a little bit sacrilegious for him to be the 4th quarterback off the board, but right. I knew that this was going to be probably a reality just given what was going on. I wasn't sure how much faith you were going to have in the Jaguars situation. I wasn't sure if you were going to take Justin Fields there, but whoever you weren't going to pick between Lawrence and Fields, I was going to be happy taking, because Lawrence, I mean, you got to bet on the talent, and for Fields, shoot, from what we've seen already, you got to bet on the talent as well, especially for how much the Chicago Bears are going to need him. So not just early on, but also long term. Yeah, I'll take the 4th quarterback off the board here.
All right, now this is where it gets interesting because
yes.
I am not taking Mack Jones here, so I've got guys like Jamar Chase, who has been struggling to get his sea legs underneath him here in the first couple weeks of the preseason. I've got Jalen Waddle, who I've seen, everything that I've been hearing and have seen on the field indicates that he could be the wide receiver 1 drafted here. I'm going to go Kyle Pitts, though.
Yeah, there's
Kyle
no
Pitts, at 106 here in a Superflex rookie draft. I took him at the 104 in a 1 QB rookie draft that I just had recently, so I think that this is still fine value for Kyle Pitts. And again, the age, everything that you and I have broken down here about Kyle Pitts on the podcast indicates that he's worth taking here over Jamar Chase, over Jalen Waddle, over Travis Etienne, who's struggling with an injury now, right? Mm-hmm. So I will go with Kyle Pitts here at the 106.
Yeah, and I think that makes it relatively easy, and this is the order that it should have been. There's not really a surprise in this rookie draft for me. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase next, and yeah, of course, it's taken him a little bit longer to get acclimated, get confident. Even with Joe Burrow as his quarterback, it's just different. When you're making the transition from college to the NFL, there's a lot of things that go on. Shoot, some of these players, they don't really get confident in themselves until year 2, maybe even year 3. These are young players adapting to young careers. And so what you've got to bet on is the talent. Jamar Chase is just so dang good, and he's going to figure it out eventually. He's going to pay off for you eventually. But I do think that this is the correct order, with the quarterbacks going first, Najee Harris off the board, Kyle Pitts off the board, then getting Jamar Chase off the board. So I think that you'd be happy to get him at this spot, but this is appropriate.
I want to talk about Jamar Chase really quick, because there are people that are now panicking in the streets because they spent, potentially the 101 pick in 1 QB formats on Jamar Chase. If not, they drafted him very highly in April or May when they were doing their rookie draft. So Jamar Chase here, I mean, what is your panic level on him? Obviously, you like him. You took him here at the 107 as the first wide receiver off the board, but Do we think that Justin Jefferson, coming out of LSU, coming out of that same system with Joe Burrow, then Jamar Chase, and the success that Justin Jefferson had last year specifically, and then, him reuniting with Joe Burrow, the high draft capital, do you think that created unrealistic expectations here for Jamar Chase? Or what is really the situation here?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, we have gotten so far out of hand, and I don't mean to say this to like damper draft season and draft hype, because I love it, and I'm obviously in the industry talking about draft hype, and this is what I love to do, and I love that everybody else is getting involved as well. But like, we want these guys to hit the ground running, right? I mean, can you remember 2 weeks ago when Zach Wilson threw 4 interceptions in one practice, and everyone thought that, oh my God, how could you ever have drafted Zach Wilson over Justin Fields? Are you kidding me? It's just classic Jets. And then it's like, okay, now he gets into the game and now he looks good. And he even said it after that practice. Yeah, I'm throwing picks in practice. I'm a rookie in the NFL. I'm supposed to be figuring out what works and what doesn't. I'm supposed to be figuring out how it happens. And so like, we just get so impatient. I feel like I'm like a boomer right now, but I feel like I'm talking to like a microwave fantasy generation. Everybody breathe. It might not even be this year with Jamar Chase. Who knows? The old regime in Cincinnati might be out the door soon. Who knows when it's going to happen, but I promise you it's going to happen. They're going to be good. Yep.
All right. So let's go to the running back position here at the 108. I'm going to take Javonte Williams.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah, man. I think with the Travis Etienne injury, that happened just yesterday as we're recording this. So we don't know how long Travis Etienne is going to be out yet. We don't have that clarity yet at the time of recording, but it is enough for me to go Javonte Williams here. Everything that we have seen from Williams in his action in the preseason has indicated that he is going to be a force for fantasy football sooner rather than later. Now, he's got Melvin Gordon standing in his way, but Gordon, at this point of his career, doesn't really scare me. I think that we could see Williams take over this job as the season progresses. Maybe not fully. I think Gordon's still going to be involved enough, but then once we get into 2022, man, we could be talking about a top 15 fantasy football running back. So I will take the shot here with Javonte Williams at the 108.
The thing I love the most about Javonte Williams is the dude knows how to pass protect, and that's going to get him on the field, which will then, pave the way for you to potentially be a bell cow back and have as much volume as a team could possibly give you. I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle here. I wish so badly that I could go with Devontae Smith, but I don't know how the dude's going to hold up, right? I mean, like he's like 170 pounds, basically 180 pounds, whatever it is. I mean, like he's an anomaly, and you're betting heavily against NFL players who have come before him and have been able to stay healthy. It's just that's not often the case with Devontae. I wish so badly that I could pick him because I think that he's the clear wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia. No matter who's the quarterback, they're going to lean on him early and often, as I think that the Eagles are probably going to be playing catch up quite a bit throughout this season. But I don't know how available he's going to be, not just this year, but in the years to come. And I know Waddle's coming off an injury himself, but I'll bet on Waddle here, and I'm going to go with Waddle over Smith.
Yeah, I would too. That's the order that I had these guys in the pre-draft process. So I had Jamar Chase at 1, then I had Waddle at 2, and Devontae Smith at 3. Didn't mean that I didn't like Devontae Smith. I just had some concerns there. But here at the 110, those concerns are not going to play a factor for me. I am going to take Devontae Smith here at the 110. I think that, I've been on record saying that I don't have a ton of faith here in the passing offense here in Philadelphia, but this is looking long-term, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, if Carson Wentz does end up playing in week 1, they have a very good chance to have 3 first-round picks next year. Mm-hmm. So we could see them either move up and grab a quarterback, one of these guys that we just finished talking about on our summer scouting series, a Sam Howell, a Spencer Rattler, like one of those guys that could be throwing the ball to Devontae Smith next year. That gets me a little excited here, willing to take him here at the 110. All right, you are up at the 111.
I'll go Travis Etienne here. I think that this is probably the safe spot for him, and obviously he's got the foot injury, but it's a foot injury that you hope they don't rush him back. You hope that he heals fully. You hope you're getting most of his rookie season. And then beyond that, of course, we're talking about a dynasty draft. And so you're drafting long-term talent anyways. The Jaguars are still trying to figure it out. Whether it's Travis Etienne in the running back position or what they're doing with the offensive line or how they're shaping the defense, whatever, how they're calling plays even. They're still going to be figuring it out this year. So you can't expect a ton from this year, I don't think. If you get something great, treat it as a bonus. But moving forward, it's still Travis Etienne, still one of the fastest people on the football field. So you got to bet on him here.
Yep, for sure. All right, I am going to go with the running back position as well. I'm going to go with Trey Sermon here. Sermon, I think the more that we've seen from him in the preseason, and obviously he was injured here for game number 2, so we didn't get to see him on the field. But in game 1, I think that we're going to see Kyle Shanahan kind of zig when the rest of the league zags, right? We've seen so many other teams pop up where they're trying to copy Kyle Shanahan's, system, right? As an outside zone, predominantly what he's run. And Trey Sermon's successful running back in an outside zone scheme. He has the vision for it. But at his size, I think that he fits more as that like bell cow kind of running back. And so I think what we're going to see is them probably run a little bit more inside zone here. We saw that with Trey Sermon in game 1, where he's going to be the guy that is carrying the ball in between the tackles and trying to pick up the chunk gains there. And then you've got Raheem Mostert being as that change of pace back who's going to be able to run on the outside and keep defenses guessing. So I think with Trey Sermon here, I think that we're in line for a big season, especially if we do see Trey Lance take over week 1 potentially. I think that this offense is about to take off and scoring opportunities are going to be there for Trey Sermon. So I will go him here at the 112. Just to recap the first round, that was Najee Harris at the 101, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith at the 110, then Travis Etienne and Trey Sermon to round out the first round. Let's get into the second here. Trevor, you are on the clock.
I'm going to stick with running back here. This might be a little bit of a stretch to some people, but I'll go Michael Carter, the running back for the New York Jets. I think that Michael Carter is going to emerge as that RB1 out of that group. I know that it looks really clouded right now with all the people that they have there, like Pirine, Kevin Coleman, plenty of other players as well, but I genuinely think that Michael Carter is going to come out at head and shoulders above the rest. And as the year goes on, he is just going to prove more and more that he is going to be that RB1. And like I said, it's still a work in progress with that offensive line there with the Jets. But I think if you get into year 2 and year 3 of Michael Carter, not only are you getting a better version of that running back, but you're also getting a better offensive line in front of them. I think they're going to continue to invest resources into it. And so this is a bit of a long-term play, but I do think it's going to be one that really pays off for you in the end. I'll go Michael Carter here.
All right, so then here at the 202, I'm going to go the quarterback position. I will take Mack Jones here. Now, Mack Jones, I think, is going to be sitting for quite a while behind Cam Newton here, assuming that COVID and restrictions and all this doesn't play a role, but I do think that Cam Newton is going to be the starting quarterback to start the year. I think that as long as he is healthy and at least keeping the offense moving, then we're not going to see Mack Jones for a little bit. So that's why he's bumped down here a little bit, but from what we've seen here in the preseason, he has been impressing me. I think that he's taken some strides forward from his game at Alabama, and I think that he is well equipped to execute this scheme from Josh McDaniels. So Mack Jones here at the 202. He might go earlier than this in your Superflex drafts, but I think that this is a good value on him. So, all right, you are now up at the 203.
Yeah, Jones could definitely go before where we have him. I think that he could easily go maybe 4 or 5 spots depending on how you view his current situation, because I do think that it's just a matter of time before Mack Jones starts. So don't let a few games, whether it's 4 or 6, whatever you think Cam Newton's going to play, don't let that really get in the way of you picking a quarterback that you might really be invested in New England. I'll go Rashad Bateman. I absolutely love Rashad Bateman. Obviously, he's going to be out for the majority of the start of his rookie season, but with this being a dynasty draft, you got to bet on the talent. And I think that what we saw during training camp was he looked awesome. I think that he looked fantastic. He's going to be wide receiver 1 in that Ravens offense. I think it's only a matter of time before it's Bateman and J.K. Dobbins basically running the show next to Lamar Jackson as the focal points of what the Ravens have going on. And so when Rashad Bateman gets back to form, I think he's going to be the go-to guy. So I'll go Bateman here for the long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you weren't going to take Bateman there, I was definitely going to take him here. So I'm going to go with Elijah Moore, the wide receiver for the New York Jets here at the 204. We've just been hearing nonstop buzz about this guy and what he can do here for the New York Jets. We know that Zach Wilson and him have developed chemistry, and I think that they are going to have a big plan for him as part of this offense. I think that Corey Davis is going to be the 1A in this offense, but I wouldn't be shocked if Elijah Moore is right there. It might take him a little bit to get off the ground here in year 1, especially with him missing some time with an injury, but he was back at practice today. And then you do have Jamison Crowder still here on the depth chart. So I'm interested to see where Elijah Moore is potentially going to play. But if he beats out Jamison Crowder for that slot role, then we are talking about a very, very valuable fantasy asset that you just got here at the 204. All right, you are now on the clock at the 205. Where are you going?
I'll go Rondale Moore here. I've highlighted this before. Rondale Moore might be in a crowded room right now with AJ Green, with DeAndre Hopkins, with Christian Kirk. it looks like he's going to beat out Andy Isabella. But like even with that being said, it looks like there's 3 dudes in front of him. But Christian Kirk's on the last year of his contract. No guarantee that AJ Green's going to be back next year. They've already shown that they're willing to get the ball in Rondale Moore's hands out of the backfield and in the passing game as well. And so next season already, it could be DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore, and they're just basically building the entire passing offense around those 2 guys. So I think the future is very bright for Rondale Moore, even if it might be a little crowded this year. So I think this is the right spot for him.
Yeah, they are making an effort to get him involved in the game. That's for sure throughout the first couple of weeks of the preseason. And that's what he needs to do. You get the ball near the line of scrimmage and let him create after the catch, which is what he is so good at. So I'm going to go here with Terrace Marshall Jr., the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers at the 206. Now with Terrace Marshall, I had him a little bit lower than consensus in my wide receiver rankings just because I was acknowledging that there was a lower floor for Marshall, but he has come into camp here and into the preseason and has just dominated. Now, I do have concerns about, okay, what does the target share look like for him when you do have all the weapons in this offense, fully healthy? Like Christian McCaffrey is obviously going to be target leader. And then you've got Robbie Anderson, who just signed an extension right before we started recording here. DJ Moore, like there are other options in this offense where Terrace Marshall is going to be kind of vying for number 4. Like I don't see him outpacing DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson in year 1. So, but with Terrace Marshall moving forward, I think that he has the potential and talent to absolutely hit and be a factor, particularly in the red zone. So Terrace Marshall here at the 206. I will gladly add him to the team. You are now up at the 207.
Oh, man, I'm debating between 2 guys, and I wonder if these are the next 2 players that you're going to take. I'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this is probably the next correct pick here, the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. Just not a lot of wide receiver help right now in Detroit, and as they are going to get better in that wide receiver room, they're going to do so still leaning on St. Brown, and I think that you could play him in the slot, you could play him on the outside, you can use him in a variety of different ways, and he's going to kind of be a versatile chess piece for them as they fill out that wide receiver group over the next couple of years. So no matter who they're going to bring in, I'm sure they're going to bring in a big-bodied X who they really like. Maybe they'll draft one really high. They'll probably bring in a deep speedster as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to get his touches. He's still going to get his targets, I think, throughout, and I think this is the right pick.
Yep, I agree with that one. All right, 208 here. I will go with De'Ami Brown.
Those are the 2 guys I was debating between. So
yeah, man, I think that we've already seen that Ryan Fitzpatrick is willing to trust him. Now, I have questions about just like, okay, is De'Ami Brown actually going to be a starter to start his career here, or do we see one of these other guys step in over him, right? Curtis Samuel, when he's back and fully healthy, do we see him play over De'Ami Brown? But we've seen the talent. We've seen the flashes already here. So I'm willing to take that bet on De'Ami Brown. I will draft him here at the 208. You are now up on the clock at the 209.
Okay, so you took Brown there. I'm going to take Ramondre Stevenson, and I think right now it is Damian Harris's show there. There's obviously a couple of options for New England, but Ramondre Stevenson is always, whether it's this year, next year, his 3rd year, his last year of his rookie contract, whatever it is, he is always going to bring an element of plus athleticism for a guy who brings a lot of size to the position. I think that's always something that you're going to want to get on the field. The better he gets, if his vision improves, then I can see a potential starting role for them. And so I'm not thrusting him into an RB role yet. This is really a true dynasty pick here. But with that ability, I think it's always going to be something that Belichick and the rest of that offense is going to want to try to get on the field whenever they can. So I want to pick Stevenson here.
Yeah, he's been lighting it up in the preseason, right? Averaging 7.7 yards per carry, 4 rushing touchdowns already in the first 2 games here. So it's hard to not, I was really, as we sat down to do this, I was like, I'm really interested to see where exactly Ramondre Stevenson goes, because you do have Damian Harris. Sony Michel is still on this roster. Who knows if he'll be for week 1? Then you've got James White, JJ Taylor. Like, it's a crowded room. So I don't know where exactly Stevenson fits in and if he's going to be able to carve out a role for himself in year 1. But I do think that he has played his way at least onto this roster, and then I think that he can carve out a significant role for himself in year 2. So here in the back end of the second round, for a team that might be really, really running back needy, makes a lot of sense. I will go here with the tight end position, a guy that you and I have talked about on different podcasts, saying like if we did not have Kyle Pitts in this class, we would be talking a lot more about Pat Freiermuth here. So Freiermuth showed up big time in week 2 of the preseason. I love his talent, love what he can do, and I think that there is a very realistic possibility that we do see Freiermuth beat out Eric Ebron as the season progresses for tight end 1 on this team. So Freiermuth here for a dynamic offense where he's already got Big Ben's trust. I think it's a fantastic pick here at the 210. You are now up at the 211.
I'm going to go with Amari Rogers. And I know that the Packers are a little bit uncertain right now, especially with everything going on with Aaron Rodgers. He's probably not going to be on the Packers next year, but they bring in, right. I mean, like, they bring in Randall Cobb. Okay. What's going on? Like, basically what's happening with these wide receivers outside of Davante Adams. But no matter what happens with Rodgers this year or next, I like Amari Rogers. I like him as a future slot receiver stud for, whether it's Jordan Love, whether it's Aaron Rodgers next year, whatever it is. I really like Amari, and I think that he really took a jump in terms of his production and his reliability this past year when he was at Clemson. So I think it's going to show out for the Packers. I think he's going to be able to separate himself a little bit. And I like his game a lot, and so I think this is probably a suitable place for him.
All right, here at the 212, I'm looking at some of these names where I'm just like, man, I don't know what their guaranteed roles are. I don't know, moving forward, what their roles will be in the future. I know that Kadarius Toney is going to get every opportunity to succeed here in New York because he's got the draft capital to his name. Mm-hmm. So as we move into going into the third round, these guys that we could see them not be on their rosters, on the respective teams that drafted them, even as early as next year. I know that Kadarius Toney is going to be on the Giants for the next several years. I don't know what his impact is going to be for my roster in year one, but this is kind of thinking about the long-term option here. Again, dynasty rookie drafts. So going Kadarius Toney here at the 212. Let me wrap up the second round, and then we'll move on to the third. We had Michael Carter go at the 201, then Mack Jones, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore at the 205, Terrace Marshall Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, De'Ami Brown, Ramondre Stevenson, Pat Freiermuth at the 210, then Amari Rogers and Kadarius Toney at the 211 and 212 respectively. At the 301, my friend, this is getting interesting. Where are we going?
I'm going deep for this one. I'm going deep in the well. I'm going Josh Palmer, the wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. I just think that again, this is a situation where I think he's lower in the consensus rankings because people are looking at his current situation and say, okay, that he's buried in a depth chart that already has well-established guys, but that might not be the case even come next year. There might be a big-time opportunity for Josh Palmer to step up, and as we know, they've got a great quarterback in Justin Herbert who's not going anywhere, and so, of course, Keenan Allen's going to be the focal point, but how much longer is Williams going to be there? Who knows? Josh Palmer could definitely step into a much bigger role as we get into year 2 and year 3 of his rookie contract, and so this one's a dynasty stash, but I'm going to go Josh Palmer here.
Yeah, man. Mike Williams, his contract is up at the end of this year. I think that's what they drafted Josh Palmer to be, was the Mike Williams replacement in this offense. So it makes a ton of sense here. All right, at the 302, I'm going to go at the running back position, a player that I loved coming out. That is Kenneth Gainwell. Now, I don't know what his role is going to be on this offense here, but I do think that Nick Sirianni is going to look to utilize multiple running backs in this scheme. So I think that Gainwell, as a phenomenal pass catcher, as someone who is a nice complement to Miles Sanders, who struggled with drops last year. It seems like it's continuing over into training camp this year. I think that Gainwell could carve out a significant role for himself. So I will go Kenneth Gainwell here at the 302.
I'll go Brevin Jordan with this next selection.
All right.
Texans have Jordan Aiken. They've got Farrell Brown. They've got a ton of different tight ends, but Brevin Jordan is different. I don't think that you can exactly peg him straight into that role as a traditional tight end. And so when you want to get more of that big slot kind of a player on the field, he might be their best option. And I have no idea what's going to happen with the Houston Texans. But I know that Brevin Jordan got a crap ton of targets and attention when he was at Miami. Why? Because he was unique. He was uniquely athletic for a player of his build. Now, are you going to be able to line him up in line and have him in 12 personnel packages all the time? No, probably not, because that's not where the strength of his game is. But as the NFL continues to evolve, they get into a lot of those mismatch opportunities with guys in the slot who can either win with size or surprising quickness. I think that could be Brevin Jordan. So taking a chance here, but I'll go Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, and he's got the talent. I think that the reason why he fell to the 5th round was just because of commitment issues, like off the field there to the game of football. I think that was some maturity questions. I think that was what was hanging over his head and why he fell. So the talent's there. It's worth taking a shot on here in the 3rd round. I will go with another player who the talent is there and is absolutely worth taking here in the 3rd round. That is Dwayne Escridge, the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. Anyone who has listened to this podcast for any length of time knows that I am a huge Dwayne Escridge fan, and we haven't seen him yet. He's been on the pup to start training camp here, but he is now back at practice. We haven't seen him in game action yet, but I think that once we do, I think that we're going to see him skyrocket up dynasty rankings, and especially too, what happens if something does happen to Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, then he's now the number 2 option in an offense led by Russell Wilson. So he fills a huge role for this offense. I think that there is very little downside to selecting Dwayne Escridge, and the upside is through the roof. I'll take him here at the 304.
All right, you're going with one of your guys. I'll go with one of mine. I'll go Tylan Wallace, the wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens. 50-50 ball stud. I mean, he was the go-to receiver for 3 straight seasons with Oklahoma State. And he's a different type of wide receiver than what the Baltimore Ravens currently have. But as that offense, I think, reinvents itself a little bit and gets a little bit more involved in the passing game, I think they're going to need somebody who can consistently come down with Lamar Jackson's passes. And so I think that Tylan Wallace can absolutely be one of those guys. He's got an uphill battle. He's pretty down. He's pretty deep on the depth chart right now. But this is a stash play that could really pay off for you in the future.
All right, I'm going to go back to the quarterback position here. I'm going to take Kellen Mond, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. I liked Mond's tape coming out. I think that he is a limited quarterback. I don't think that he is going to ever be one of these guys that we talk about as a top 15 option for a fantasy quarterback. But I think that with Kirk Cousins, there's a possibility that he's off this roster sooner rather than later, and Kellen Mond could be the future here in Minnesota. So I will take the shot, especially, it's a Superflex league. You got to be able to take some shots on some quarterbacks and see how they pan out. I'll go Kellen Mond here at the 306.
I'll go Elijah Mitchell, the running back for the San Francisco 49ers. You took the one that I think everybody believes is going to eventually be the heir apparent RB1 in San Francisco in Trey Sermon, but I still think there's going to be plenty of carries for Mitchell. I think he's going to stick around. I think there's a reason why you love him. I mean, his athletic scores were just fantastic from this past offseason when he was coming through the draft. And so you bet on players like that, right? I mean, like you bet on those guys that can give you that high potential because all it takes is an opportunity. And you never know exactly how it's going to happen, but if he gets it, I think Mitchell can make the most of it.
All right, I'm going to go to your team. I'm going to go with a wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to go Jalen Darden here. I have loved what I've seen from Jalen Darden throughout the preseason. Everything that I saw on tape shows up here. This guy is just absolutely electric. One of these guys that I just absolutely loved. I think that he could fill a very valuable slot role in the NFL, and then also does bring some speed on special teams. So I think he's going to see the field here in year 1. And then year 2, I mean, Chris Godwin, franchise tag, Antonio Brown, who knows what's happening there. So Darden could be a starter in this offense in 2022. I will take Jalen Darden here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 308.
I want to go with Amir Smith-Marset, the wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. I think that he can have a lot of positives coming from his special teams play over the next couple of years that could continue to have him on the regular season roster, that gets him wide receiver snaps, that, who knows, maybe it starts and he's just, okay, he's a wide receiver 4, and now he's, producing well, and now you move him up to wide receiver 3, whatever. Obviously, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are the go-to guys there, but, I think it could be anybody's game behind that. And so I think that why not? Give Amir Smith-Marset a chance. I think they really like him in Minnesota, and so he's a player who's worth watching.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I circled after I saw where he landed in the NFL draft. Was just like, I got to keep an eye on this guy because I think that he could force his way into playing time sooner than later. I will go with Nico Collins here, the wide receiver for the Houston Texans. With Houston, I have no freaking clue what is happening with this team, what it's going to look like here in year 1. I am not expecting big things here for Nico Collins in year 1, which is why he's down here at the 310. But moving forward, if they do fix the quarterback issue here moving forward, if they do get the number 1 overall pick and we do see Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell, whichever quarterback that is in 2022, then Nico Collins has a quarterback upgrade. So I will take him here. He's worth the shot at the 310.
I'll go Chuba Hubbard, the running back for the Carolina Panthers. Certainly, if anything happens to Christian McCaffrey, I think that running back room is basically wide open. And I believe it was the draft night story that said, who was it? I think it was Matt Rule's wife.
Yes.
Who said, if Chuba Hubbard is there, you better draft him. And so obviously they're not going to be cutting him anytime soon or anything because you got to stay in good graces with a significant
happy life.
Yeah, of course. Right. So Chuba ain't going anywhere. And, if anything happens to McCaffrey, then all of a sudden the carries and the emphasis from that position become wide open. So why not? I'll take Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, I definitely could see him going a lot earlier than this, even in a Superflex draft, because of that potential there. So, all right, I'm going to go a little bit further down here. I'm going to go to the running back position. I'm going to take a guy who I think could potentially become the running back 2 in his respective offense here, potentially by week 1. I'm going to go Larry Roundtree, the running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that even though he is a 6th round pick, I think that we could see him work his way into a starting role here as the 1B option behind Austin Eckler and potentially the goal line back. So I'm looking for these guys that have the potential to hit right away, and Larry Roundtree certainly has that. He's worth taking the shot on. All right, at the 301, just to recap the 3rd round, that was Josh Palmer, Kenneth Gainwell, Brevin Jordan, Dwayne Escridge, Tylan Wallace at the 305, then Kellen Mond, Elijah Mitchell, Jalen Darden, Amir Smith-Marset at the 309, Nico Collins, Chuba Hubbard, and Larry Roundtree III to round out the end of the 3rd round. All right, 4th round, man. It gets pretty interesting here. So where do you want to start?
I mean, you're kind of just throwing darts at the dartboard, right? I mean, you're trying to figure it out. There's a handful of running backs that are still available, but I'll go with Jarrett Patterson, the running back from Buffalo, who now plays for the Washington football team. Antonio Gibson's clearly the guy there. And then obviously they have J.D. McKissick as the backup. They have Peyton Barber still on the roster. And so this is truly a long-term play here. But maybe Patterson, who has looked decent at times this preseason, I can continue to stick around the roster. He'll probably be a practice squad this year. You can't expect him to be anything for you now. But, maybe they move on from Peyton Barber. They let Patterson be more of that physical, short yardage kind of back. And all of a sudden, who knows? Maybe he gets a little bit more work in the red zone, on the goal line, and short yardage situations, whatever it could be. I liked what I saw for the preseason, so I'll take a chance on him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, here at the 402, I am going to go with Kylan Hill, the running back for the Green Bay Packers. Man, I just do not know. Even I said this in April. I don't know why he fell all the way to the 7th round. And maybe it's one of those things that is just behind the scenes stuff that we will never know about, that we just can't know as talent evaluators from a film perspective. But I thought Kylan Hill should have been an early day 3 pick. And he is showing off his talent and athleticism here throughout the preseason. So he has the potential to carve out a role as the RB3 in this offense, and he does come with upside if something were to happen to Aaron Jones. I think we could see him slide into the pass-catching role complement to A.J. Dillon in that instance. So holding on to him here as a 4th-round pick makes a ton of sense, in my opinion. All right, you are now up at the 403.
I would have liked this pick a lot better if we recorded this podcast before Robbie Anderson signed his extension, but I'm going to go with Shia Smith. I think that Shia Smith was held back by poor quarterback play when he was at South Carolina. You hope the quarterback play is a lot better in the NFL. I like his skill set. I think he's an explosive receiver, and he's got a lot of attitude to him, too. I think he's got a lot of confidence to his game. So I'll pick Shia Smith. Like I said, I would have liked it more if Robbie Anderson didn't just get extended, but I guess it's more of a long-term play that you're betting on the talent there.
Yeah, I liked Shia Smith coming out, and for him to be, what was he, a 6th-round pick?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, for him to go in the 6th round just spoke, I think, more to the talent and depth at the wide receiver position more so than an indictment on him. I think that he is a very, very talented player. So Shia Smith there at the 403. I am going to go with a running back here at the 404. I'm going to go with Khalil Herbert. You've got David Montgomery. You've got Damian Williams. You've got Tariq Cohen above him on the depth chart. But everything that we're seeing from Khalil Herbert here is signaling that he could have a role in this offense here. And, it's one of those guys that you're just holding on to see what can happen. I don't know if I'm expecting big things from him in year 1, maybe not even in year 2, but as a depth piece here, and again, it's pretty gross at this point of the draft. So Khalil Herbert makes a lot of sense here. All right, you are now up at the 405.
All right, fine, I'll do it. I'll pick Kyle Trask.
I was about to say, is this Kyle Trask?
Well, it's not going to be Tutu Atwell. So, I'm going to I'm picking Kyle Trask here. This is kind of going against my grading judgment because I think that Kyle Trask is just a career backup in the NFL. Like, I really do. I think that he's a spot starter at best. But the situation in Tampa, I mean, if Brady hangs it up, he's not going to hang it up after this year, but I think Brady's going to play one more year after this. And, let's say that Brady hangs it up, and let's say that Jason Light, who I believe was the one who was orchestrating this pick more so than Bruce Arians was, let's say Jason really pushes for Kyle Trask to be the starter. Maybe he'll get his shot. Maybe he'll play better than expected. And so I think it's a quarterback. It's a super flex league. And so if you get this far in the draft and Kyle Trask is still there, just pick him up.
Yep. All right, here at the 406, I'm going to go with the wide receiver who has the special teams ability that is going to keep him on this roster. Even though he is a 6th round pick, Daz Newsome here, I loved his tape at North Carolina. I was shocked at his testing numbers. I thought that he played so much faster than that.
Way faster, yep.
Way faster. So I think that we, early on in the offseason, we got the buzz that, and the news that Justin Fields and Daz Newsome had a connection. We have yet to see that play out here in the preseason. Obviously, they just haven't overlapped here much, but Daz Newsome as a player who I know is most likely going to stick on this roster because of his punt return ability, so then he can stick and become eventually the starting slot receiver in this offense as early as next year. So Daz Newsome here at the 406. All right, we just got a few more picks here, Trev. Where are you going at the 407?
I just saw this guy's name here, and so I would have picked him way earlier. Tommy Tremble. I mean, Tommy Tremble basically has a streamlined path to being the tight end 1 on the Carolina Panthers in his 2nd and 3rd year. Like 3rd year, I think, at the latest. And I really loved the potential that Tommy Tremble showed when he was at Notre Dame. I mean, he's raw as a pass catcher right now in terms of technique and exactly how to set up defenders to create separation, but he has the adequate athleticism. And when you talk about getting on the field because you're blocking, I mean, like, this dude is an imposing blocker.
Yep.
You set him up in wing alignments, you get him in split zone coming across the line of scrimmage, and he will punish somebody, right? And so that's going to get him on the field consistently over the next 2 years. It's going to allow him to be in on more passing down and play action situations. He's going to be tight end 1 for this Carolina Panthers team. I got him at 407. He's got to go way earlier than that. Earlier than that.
All right, I am going to go with a running back / wide receiver here. I'm going to go with Demetric Felton, the hybrid player out of UCLA, now with the Cleveland Browns. Been a ton of positive buzz for him in the Cleveland Browns camp, and so I think that he could potentially form a nice role here. Because you've got Nick Chubb, obviously, you've got Kareem Hunt, but then it's Dearness Johnson as the RB3, or is it going to be Demetric Felton? I think that he can force his way into that type of role here, and that does come with some upside if something were to happen to Nick Chubb. We know that he can catch the ball really, really well. So Demetric Felton here at the 408.
Did Trayvon Grimes get signed anywhere?
I actually have absolutely no idea. I saw him on this list, and I was like,
no, he's a free agent. He's still a free agent. So, like, he was signed as an undrafted free agent, I believe, by the Philadelphia Eagles, and then
yes, he was
released very quickly after that. And I was like, okay, this is weird, because it was just like, oh, we've released him. I don't remember exactly what the story. Maybe you can Google it while I'm picking, but I'm pretty sure it was just kind of like random. It was just like, yep, he's just not on the team anymore. I was like, all right, that's weird as hell, because I actually liked the idea of him getting some playing time in Philly, but would have picked him there if he was still an Eagle, but he's not. Instead, I'll go with another wide receiver that I really liked, Sage Surratt. He's the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. Now, separation is not his game. He's a true X receiver, and you got to throw the ball up to him. You got to just trust that he's going to come down with the 50-50 ball. He was able to do a lot in college. Will he be able to do it in the NFL? I think that's the big differentiating factor that would get between him and a really successful career. But as a true X, something that I feel like the Detroit Lions do not have right now, I think there's some room for him to make a difference. And so it's going to take a lot better effort than what we have seen from him recently, but I think the path to it is still there. So, yeah, I'll go Sage Surratt here.
Yeah, and again, we're throwing darts. At the 410, let's throw a dart at the quarterback position here in a Superflex league. I was not a big fan of Davis Mills coming out. I don't know where you landed on him, but he's gonna get playing time this year. We know that. Tyrod Taylor's not going to start all 17 games for this team. They're going to see what they've got in Davis Mills, and I don't think that it's going to be great. But if I'm wrong, it's the 410 pick in a Superflex league, right? So it's worth at least taking the shot on to see what he can become here, especially and if he does turn out to be something at the quarterback position, then I've got potential trade bait there. So Davis Mills, 410. You are up now with the 411. Your final pick, my man.
I'll go Javian Hawkins. I have no idea what's going to happen with that Atlanta Falcons running back. I was like,
do you not know?
No, what happened?
He was just released right before we started recording this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay, that's very funny that would be my last pick, and I would just because I was dreading it. He's a little bit higher in our rankings right now because we have a list that we're looking at, and he's a little bit higher, and we keep skipping over his name, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't like him, but nobody's in Atlanta. That's really funny that he actually got released.
Yep.
All right, fine, then I'll do it. I'll pick Tutu Atwell. Fine, I'll do it.
All right. Trevor loves Tutu Atwell. You heard it here first.
They drafted him in the second round. They're obviously going to use the guy, I think that we have to pick him here.
Don't get me started on the
Were you going to pick him? Were you going to pick him? Because if you
I
weren't,
was not going to draft Tutu Atwell.
Okay, well then I'm glad that I did. I did.
All right, Des Fitzpatrick here. I'm going to go at the 412. He's got the draft capital. I don't know what this wide receiver room is going to look like. I have heard next to nothing about Des Fitzpatrick throughout the offseason. You've got Josh Reynolds above him on the depth chart. Some other guys, it sounds like Trevor Rogers is even above him on this depth chart. But again, 412 here. He's got the draft capital, and that's something that, if I can fall back on that, he's going to have at least role. He's going to at least be on this roster and given opportunities to succeed, because teams don't like necessarily wasting their third or fourth round picks and just cutting them right away. So I think Fitzpatrick has the opportunity to turn into something. We'll see if that happens in 2022. All right, to recap the fourth round there, that was Jarrett Patterson, Kylan Hill, Shia Smith, Khalil Herbert, Kyle Trask, Daz Newsome, Tommy Tremble, Demetric Felton at the 408, then Sage Surratt, Davis Mills, Tutu Atwell, and Des Fitzpatrick to wrap it up. All right, Trevor. Man, looks a lot different than what we had earlier on this offseason, man. There have been some risers, some fallers. I mean, Travis Etienne going at the 111 in a Superflex league even. That's something that I just wasn't ready for, but it's what happens when we have these injury concerns, when we're drafting a little bit later and we know what can potentially play out and cause players to miss some time. You want players to be available, especially if you're drafting them and you've got holes on your roster. So anything stand out to you here that you were like, man, I'm shocked that this went this way, or maybe, if you could go back and redo a pick, what would that be?
Well, I think that, like I said before, Mack Jones going early 202, I feel like you can make a case, especially in a Superflex league, that Mack's going to go a lot higher than that, probably should go a lot higher than that. So maybe 4 or 5 spots back into the first round there. Kind of shocked they got Rashad Bateman at 203, but to your point, that's kind of what happens when we think of injuries, right? If Rashad Bateman was fully healthy, I honestly think that we would have been thinking about Rashad Bateman at the 109, the 110, the 111, something like that. And so those are the few that probably jump out to me. Kadarius Toney not getting picked until the back end of the second round, almost the third round. I mean, yeah, that is crazy. Good luck, Giants. I don't know why they did it. I don't know why they didn't.
We haven't seen him.
Yeah, there's a reason why we haven't seen him.
I know. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much to Reality Sports Online for sponsoring today's podcast. Trev, this has been a ton of fun, man. I am just so excited for you and where you're going with PFF. I know that you guys are going to do some fantastic things there. Can't wait to have you back on this podcast as a guest to continue doing podcasts with you in some way, shape, or form. So, man, I'm just so excited for you. It's a bummer that we won't be able to continue doing this podcast together. But again, I'm truly excited for you.
I appreciate everybody listening and supporting me, following me, sending me messages, giving me a warm welcome to this podcast. I really did love getting to be a part of the audience, the listenership, and of course, getting to sit here and talk some football with you, Kyle. It's been a blast, man. I hope I get to come on the podcast again soon, because I do love this stuff, and this is a lot of fun, man. I know it won't be the last time, but I'm not going too far, so you don't have to worry too much about that.
Yep, for sure. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Stay tuned, guys, because we are going to be back next week. I've got a great guest lined up, so make sure that you come back for that episode. For Trevor Sikkema, I'm Kyle Yates, and we'll see you next time.
Looking for useful content, fantasy-relevant information, and the data that can help your team win? Then make sure to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel. And while you're at it, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FantasyPros, so we can help you dominate your league all season long.